in the poll, I see that people say, okay, they use mostly Redux. It's like 57% of you are using Redux and only one of you using Apollo Client. So really, what is Apollo Client? Apollo Client there is, it's basically a way to query and organize your data. It's organized data in your front-end applications, right? So one of the things that I love a lot with Apollo Client is this idea of partial queries that you can make and turn your application into your mobile or web application into like a very small set of code, because it's only query what it needs, right? So what we're going to do there, for example, we're just going to connect to the GitHub API and then make sure that at least we can connect to it. And then from there, we're going to query the repo, display them, and then start navigating in the repo, okay? So then you will see how you can set up that Apollo and start using it to basically share data around your application, right? So what I mean by sharing data, I'm talking about this idea of storage. So the store, if you use Redux, you might have used things like the store where you pass reducers, and those reducers will basically be used to update the thing. So we're going to see something a little bit similar here, right? So here's our app. Let's get going. Let's connect to our GitHub API. So what we do here, I have this app that I export right here, and it's just this one, right? It's just this component here. So we're gonna wire up this app to prepare it to use the GitHub API. Okay, so the way we do it, it's I already imported a few things here. If you can see that, it's fantastic. So I already imported a few things. We need the Apollo client. We're gonna use some caching system, so in-memory cache right here. And we are gonna start with the Apollo provider, which is the way we're going to actually set up. We're going to set up this entire mechanism there. So what I'm going to do there, I'm gonna first do that in line, and then as we go, I will make sure that I will just split that in different files, right? So to keep you focused on one thing here, let me just move this a bit lower so we can actually sorry. Okay, let me put it here. Okay, much better. So we're just gonna have access to this. So what we do here, instead of exporting the app, I'm going to export another function that I'm going to call appwired in this case here. And this one is where I'm going to set up the, I'm going to connect GraphQL and my React Native application. So the way you do that, you're just going to use the Apollo. Let me take that here. So you're going to use Apollo provider, missing provider, right? So that's the one you use. And then the Apollo provider actually requires you to pass a client, right? So you need to pass a client. So let's build that client here. And the client is going to use the Apollo client. And we're going to configure that in a few seconds, right? So then I'm not exporting this app anymore. I'm going to pass it right below here. All right, so we don't need to do it this way because that thing doesn't take any parameter here. So now we need to do, we just set up our application now to use Apollo provider. So I need to export this as a default. So on the other side, it could be used already to do the jobs, right? So now we need to configure these clients. So what does this client do really? If you've used Apollo before, you probably use the version 2, where you had to do a lot of import of different things to make this happen here. However, in this case here, what you do, you actually pass Apollo. With Apollo client, you can do all the configuration in one place, right? So what you do here, you're going to say like, you're going to have a URI here, which is gonna be the how you connect to the link to the GitHub API here. So what I do here, I'm just gonna go on documentation and say GitHub GraphQL Explorer. Right. So let's just do the Explorer here, and then technically I should have access to something here. So I have it here. So I'm just going to copy this. So that's the link. That's the link that I need to connect to it. Okay, so that's basically my backend, if you were to say that. So that's one thing here. However, for that, when I use it, I need to configure a few things there. I need to configure like a header to be able to safely make connection to that backend, right? So so I have the URI here. So here I'm just going to set up my header, and the header here is going to take an authorization, authorization token. So what you say here, say bearer, and I'm gonna use a token for that one. So let me actually make it like that. I already create that token, so I'm just not gonna share that here with you, right? You can you can create your own token. So people, if you have any question while I'm going through this, feel free to ask them in the tab. There is a tab dedicated for that. So we take the time toward the end or on the spot to answer those those questions there, right? Okay, so let me go back here. So here I have exported a token that I'm gonna be using for that. So just pass that token here. And then the last thing we're going to need here, I will just set up my cache. So cache to use the the in-memory cache. So we're just gonna new up an in-memory cache here, right? So what you should understand here, you see our app on the right is working again. What you should understand here is the fact that the cache system here is basically, now we're using in memory, but you can actually use different set of flavors or implementation of cache system here. And that can serve as a way for you to not make multiple calls to the same API when you can actually store only the things that you know don't change. You can just store that in the cache and then query them from there, right? So now what we have here, we wire up our application, and now we just need to make these our calls here. So the app wire here is actually connected to this index.js. So when it comes here, I pass it over here for people that are new to React Native. I receive it here, and then I bootstrap my application on line 9, right? That's the way I do it. So that's the export default when I export this app wired here, right? So now let's focus on, here we're done. So we have the URI, the header for authorization, and then we have the cache system in place. Now we need to write a query, right? We need to write a query to get the data. So the first thing we're going to say here is, let's get a username, right, of the person querying it. Since I'm using my own account, so my own token, I'm just gonna request my own data from GitHub. So what I'm going to do there, just to say, I'm going to get owner, for example. Let's say like that. And here, that's going to be my query. So I'm going to use GQL. GQL is basically a tools that allows me to make this call to write these queries, and then they will be executed um, by the GraphQL engine. By the way, is everyone here familiar with React or React Native? I saw that people say I'm 0 because I'm gonna be using something that is really React and React Native focused in this example. So if you're not familiar with that, it's gonna be kind of a big deal, but feel free to come back onto another session in the coming weeks, because we're gonna go ahead with this session about GraphQL and different set of technology. So I'm gonna cover this same approach with Angular, React itself, and then other technologies. So feel free to yeah, if you're not really familiar with React here, no worries. What I'm gonna show you here will apply in a way in Angular and other technology, right? So here I'm just gonna write my query here. So what I have in my query, I want to get, let's see how to get it. I'm just gonna get the viewer, and the viewer, what I do with the viewer, I'm just going to say like, I want to get the name of that person, right? So let me double check that here. So yeah, so I'm just gonna take, I have an example of a query, for example, here. I can actually take this entire query and then move on here and actually put it right here. It was quite the same, but I have the login. So now I have my query, right? Oh, let's call that get me myself, right? So I'm getting the user. Oh, yeah, it's being recorded. Yeah, indeed. Yes, you see it. You'd be able to watch it later. So now we're here. We have our query written. So that query there, actually, let me see if I can get a graphy. See something that I can query this. Let me take an example of, yeah, so this tool, I need this tool, I need this tool. So then you can also see exactly graph, again, GraphQL. Yeah, I always have GraphQL. I need one. I need a GraphQL client. Yeah, it's not a big deal, but that could be really useful to just play with it for a second here. Yeah, okay, never mind. We're doing that already in our code base, so as it's not a big deal. So we're gonna use our thing here. So what I wanted to do is just to play a little bit with the query in GraphQL, but it's not really mandatory in this case. We're gonna go step by step, and at some point we get to a point where you see like, okay, this is the way you can write those query. So for the people that are new to GraphQL, what I just did here, I said, here is the query that I want. And here is kind of the namespace. So I want to access, so I want to, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, maybe it will be on YouTube. Yes, we're going to push that on YouTube indeed a bit later. Yeah. So here is the thing. Here I'm just saying, I need the login, right? I need the login from that user. So let me write the query and then say here, we're going to get execute that query. So the way you execute that query, you're going to use a tool called a function called useQuery. So what useQuery does, you just pass it the query that was written there, all right? And then if you have some parameter that you need to pass, you're going to pass that as a second argument, as an object to a second argument here, right? So that's just the query. That's done. So I'm going to receive here a result. So my result will contain a few things. It's going to contain the data that I need, that I'm requesting, and a few more things like loading, if there is an error, I can get polling, start polling, and stop polling. Those things, I'm going to explain them in a few seconds. So let me just write them, stop polling here. And then there are many things you can get out of these requests here, right? So now we're just going to focus on the data part. So let me just show you I'm just going to console log what I get into in the data. So my app is running here. My app is running here. I just need a terminal, and then actually kill this and make sure that I can share with you. Yeah, it was already here, but I couldn't see it. So let me run that again. Yeah, I just needed this little screen here, right? So as you can see in this screen, look at this. I'm just put it up. I don't know if you can see it, but let me go back. So here is our query. We wrote this as a query, and we execute the query right here. And then if I go here, I can see that right below, I have my data coming in here below. So let me make sure that you can see it right here, right? Okay, let me put it right below. So right below here, you can see that I receive my data here. Okay. So now with that information, we can now go back to our code base and then say, like, since we know that we're receiving some information here, what I could do, instead of not showing anything here, I can, for example, say JSON stringify, and I'm going to show the data right here, right? So we should be able to see that data over here, okay? So sometimes I have this issue with the refresh, which kind of doesn't work. But it has been like that since I update. Look, since I update my to the latest version of iOS, of Mac OS on my computer. So never mind. Should be fine. So as you can see here on the app, I have my ID information right now. So I can just go here and then say, like, let me just write here login. But what's going to be login? The login is going to be, so if we have, so I go from data, right? And from data, I need to tag the viewer, and from viewer, I need to get the login. And since we're using TypeScript, sometime when you do that the first time, data won't be there. So that it's the first time it execute the thing, you might just have undefined. So I'm just putting this security thing there, and we should have this working. So yeah, sometimes it's a bit annoying because I lose the refresh here, kind of kills the app in a way. But as I said, we should be able to deal with it for the moment. So as you can see, we're getting the data. So I'm getting those data from my GitHub. If I go on GitHub, you can see that I go on my own profile, and that is basically the information I got. Now look at this. I have these. I'm able to get that information, but if we go back in the query, I only ask for that login, just it. So let's look back at the documentation for the GitHub API here, and I'm gonna show you something that makes me super enthusiastic whenever I can work with GraphQL, is the fact that I only ask for the name of the login of the user, but I could ask for much more. If you try to compare that to a REST API where you have to ask for like a get login, here I'm just saying, get me this specific information because my view only shows that thing, right? So if I go back in my, I need to do, I need to, oh yeah, I had this one here that was actually pretty good. Yeah, that is a good insight there. Oh, Ricardo, yeah, that's a good one. Fantastic. Let me just quickly get. I need to get the reference, the documentation somewhere. I have a way to see the reference. So if I go on the query and I go on user, right? So somewhere I should be able to see that I can query user. So here's the user. That's just the query I just made right here. And I can ask for literally every single information here. So I went to the node, and in the node, I said login here. Let me get again that. So login, and then you can see now, if I say like I want to, so I have, those are user profile. I can say that I want the name. Now I only ask the login. So if, for example, you have a project manager that says, hey, Ricardo, could you add quickly the name of the person there? So it's here, you say, okay, that's the login, right? That's the login of the person. Now you're going to add another thing here. So the only thing you have to do here is to say, okay, that's going to be the display name of the person. So what do you expect? What you will do for most of the people, you will just go on that backend and then adjust your query and then your API to be able to query that login, that name, right? Here, what I only have to do is to say, next to the login, just bring me the name, right? So now I can see that when I go here, I can say I want from the data, from that data here, what I could do instead of just taking the login, I'm gonna say I want the login and I want the name. Hopefully that's the way it's gonna be written. I have something that is broken here. What is undefined is not a function. Undefined, oh no, undefined is not an object. Okay, let me look at it a little bit. Okay, so name should be part of the things that I see there. So let me see this. Yeah, okay. Okay, I see my issue here. So let's get the API and make sure that we get the right information. So on the viewer part, I should be able to get, so that was okay. So that's what we had before. So I just want to get the login. However, the error isn't really there. Cannot find variable name. So that's good. And leave it like that for the moment. So we have this. So let me console log this so we can easily yeah, viewer could also be, yeah, upload is undefined, so the data part should already block it, right? So the first one that I have here should block it, and then viewer should be populated from that point on. So what I should be able to do here is actually to say like yeah, and I should be able to go here and then say, look, let me try something, or let me just do this. It's super easy here. I can just look at my, so I get name here coming, right? So right below here, I can see that I also get the name. So what I wanted to do is just to say the name is this. So maybe you might be right here saying that this doesn't work, but I don't know why it didn't work for this scenario. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it should be much better right now. But yeah, if you do, yeah, Ricardo is saying that the distributor was assuming it was an object and on load is undefined, therefore it wasn't. By doing separated as you're doing, it's better. But indeed, if yeah, separate, I had to separate things here. However, maybe to the point you were mentioning, Ricardo, I will just say here, if I do name, what I could do here is to say data dot maybe viewer. Hopefully, yeah, I think that will work. And then here I need to also now say, yeah, then I need a second one. No, you will do, yeah. So what I will do here is to say like, if that one is there, you want to use, yeah, the weird thing is like this should actually just work, but it doesn't. So we're just going to say like, um, if you say, yeah, that looks pretty, yeah, it's weird that because if I do this, I say if that thing exists, so then I will just say like data.viewer in a way. So that should technically solve it, saying that if that thing exists, then do data.viewer. But I still get an issue that said, okay, that's quite weird. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, a seeds, right? Yeah. Otherwise, oh, okay, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying there. So I say if that, and then I need to say something like this, and then technically that should work. Yeah, um, that should work. Yeah, or exactly how you wrote that. That's a good one. That's actually a good one. We can do it indeed in one shot by saying that we get the data viewer here, and then I'm just going to say like if there's that, you do either the one on the left or the one on the right. So that is indeed much much better. So if I go back here, just yeah, it's a weird thing here, but you see I have my the two information coming in, right? So yeah, you could do that indeed. You could give a data the viewer. No, thank you, Ricardo. That's a good. Those are good inputs there. Indeed. So let me quickly add a few things there. When you do like what I just shown you here is the fact that I was able to add a property on the fly and then right away adjust my view without having to touch a certain backend there. That is one thing that I love a lot with React, with GraphQL, and it doesn't matter which platform you use to connect that. But there's something you need to see here. When I do use query, it actually opens up like a lot of things for me. For example, I can say that I want to do polling. What does that mean? What do you think polling means here? So it means what it means, right? It means what it is really. It means that uh, uh, if you have a query that you, for example, want to run every 5 seconds, you can just enable polling here. And instead of saying true, you will, for example, say, let's execute that every 5 seconds, for example, right? So that could help. And one of the things I mentioned here is the fact that you have the start polling and the stop polling, which you can use to, for example, say, okay, I have a query, and then that query, I want for the first 5 minutes to make as many calls as possible. So meaning that you have, for example, a huge list of things, but you want to not make one call to get them all. So you want to make a different section of the call, like multiple call to get different section of the data set. You can use that with polling, for example. Okay. And then in that case, you're gonna need to change your query to, for example, say, take to use how do you call that? Like a numerated list of elements. So you will say, let's take the first 10, and then the next 10, and then the next 10, and you can use that polling to do so. But don't confuse polling with real time. If you want to do real time pagination, thank you, Lucas. You're the best. I meant pagination. Don't confuse polling with subscription or real time. If for real time update here and there, you'll be using subscription. So let me give you more insight about the use query Apollo. So because there are really much more things that you can do with it. Okay, so so let me get that here. So I have, so you have the I just mentioned a poll interval right there. You have a way to, for example, say like to skip a set of query, right? Let me add a few more things. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, one more thing that I can actually show here about it is the fact that you have a way to have put kind of on error. You will be able to pass a function that will handle how errors are managed in your application. But if you can either pass a function here, right, to handle this thing, or what you could do, you can actually go here and then say if error, because we already have the error that comes back here. And here you can actually pass, you can return a React component that will just handle the error, right, for you, right? So say here, error, right? So you will have something that will handle that. And same thing, when the application is loading, you can just say if loading, meaning that it's making a query and stuff like that. So the data aren't there yet. You can just return the app is loading here, right? So must be a string. Yeah, okay. I'm using React Native, so I cannot do this. But you get the point there. I just gonna need to do something like that. Oh yeah, that's actually a good one for the people using seeing React Native for the first time. I need this because I cannot just write. Can I just write it like this? It won't work. If you're using React, maybe that does work. But here now I can say app is running, app is loading. Right, so that will be much better indeed. So I have out of that use query, I was able to get things like from the data, the status of my query. Is there an error? And then the possibility to start and stop a polling system here, right? Which in our case, we actually don't really need it. So I can remove that. We don't really need it here. Oh, back. No, let me remove that here. right? But these are the things that could be useful for your application. And then here you saw how you can use the loading mechanism to make loading or error mechanism to make things happen there, right? So so I have a question there, which is polling used when data might be changing on the server? Yeah, yeah, indeed. So if you know that your data are changing on the server and you want to get, yeah, a good example of actually a good example of using polling is something like what's the website that uh, provide images at will, like gim image. There is a website that provides you like fake data. Yeah, someone knows that. Someone gave me that. Jiffy, well, Jiffy is probably the one. There is another one because Jiffy is gonna just give you yeah, if you can do the job. For example, if you want to have um, your backend is providing you some information in real time, you're not gonna use polling. Please don't do that. If you have real time information, use subscription, right? So let me quickly give you that here. Um, GraphQL subscription. You should use subscription, right? If in that case. But the polling part is um, the way I see polling is you have your backend generating data, and it's gonna generate data for a few minutes, like new set of data, and then you want to get each time the just a set of it, and then you move to the next set. So you will ask the request to go 5 seconds, wait 5 seconds again, then you get the data. So but for that, indeed, if it doesn't matter if you're I mean, it matters that your backend is giving you new data each time. Okay. That's a good question. So so as I said, but in most cases you're just going to be using subscription, because actually subscription, they don't they really, you just don't add anything on top of your infrastructure by using subscription and get real-time behavior in any application that you build, right? So let me quickly continue here. If you have any question, please, people, keep asking. I will be answering them. So what I want to do here is to display, for example, the list of repo, right? The list of GitHub repo. So so what I need to do here is to indeed write the query. So now I'm gonna need your help here. So we're going to write a query to get the repo. I'm just gonna do it like this. So what do we need? We need the GQL and then just a way to ask the query. So query, people, let me know, what do we have? I'm just gonna start already here. So who's jumping? Come on, people, it's your turn. So let's quickly get the documentation here. I know it's Hacklunch, so people are having lunch while watching this, but now it's your turn. Give me a little bit of help here. So what do we have? We want to access all the GitHub repo, right? All my GitHub repos here. We want to access them all. So we want to ask, like, give me all the GitHub repo for that specific person. How would you write that query? Yeah, someone is typing. I can see it. So where do you think you should start to get that information? Okay, no input. Okay, no worries. I'm gonna quickly give you an idea of how this thing from the user. Yeah, okay, thank you. Farid is someone is starting here. So what you start from the user indeed. So we need to find the documentation for the user. What is the interface for a user for a repo really, right? Um, yeah, okay. You want to use like a variable. Okay, that's an example here. Mm, yeah. Okay. So there is a query here that Ricardo shared with all of you there. It's somehow that's where we want to go. So I'm just gonna put it here and then clean that up and then we see how we make it happen. So uh, it looks like this. It looks the query looks like this. There are a few things we're going to address here, but one of the things you need to see is the fact that this says I'm querying the number of repo, which is an int, right? And that question, that exclamation mark there means that it is mandatory that you pass that information for that query, right? You need to pass that number. And then obviously here is just what you're going to return from it. So say, okay, from the viewer, I'm going to get the name, the repositories, and the last X, or you can also say the first X. So you can say, I want to take the first 10, the first 100, the first 20, and so on, so forth. Or you can say, let me take the last X, okay? And then here you say, I want to get the name of the repo. So now we go back here and then we say, we're going to write that. So here I'm gonna say like, I want to use query. Sorry, I have a running nose. So here we good. We have now we're saying we're gonna use query and we're going to get the repo. So what we need to do is actually set up the number of repos variable. It is a variable. I just said that, which means that now as a second argument, I can now pass variable and then say for the variable number of repos, which is this one here. So for the variable, you just pass them like this, and then I will say we want to take, for example, the first 10. Let me write that here. The first 10 repos, right? Oh, I I wrote that the wrong way. So here's the first 10. Yeah, looks much better, right? So now with that, I'm going to say I have the data, and I'm gonna call that repo, right? So now we can see that we just made a query and then we said we querying the first 10 repo. So if I console log repos here, we should be able to see somewhere that, oh, it's undefined. Ooh, it is undefined here. So we got that thing here. Yeah, when we pass the variable, no, it shouldn't really matter. It does matter. It does matter here. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. So yeah, that's I just copy pass here. Yeah, indeed. You take just that number. The dollar here is the way you indeed pinpoint that as a variable here, and then in the here we're just passing the number of repo is 10, and as we can see right below, we have our repo showing with their name. So what I could do now is to say let me unpack that. So I have the user, the name, and repositories, right? So I have my list of repositories that comes back here. So technically when you look at the query, you should be able to see, oh, Alexei asked a question. You don't understand the goal of doing that. Doing what? What do you mean? I wish I can talk to you directly, people, but I can see Alexei's typing. To display them, right? You want, let's say, for example, you're building, we're building a GitHub Explorer. So that's the application we're building. So the point there is to actually take this GitHub information and display that on an application, right? That's basically what we're doing, unless that's not really the question you're asking. Yeah. So yeah, the idea there is to show how you can consume that API and then show that in a React Native application. That's literally the idea behind what we're doing. And then one of the next step is going to be to build that backend ourselves and then make sure that that connection is still working. Okay, so that's what we're doing right here. Right. So here we just requested like a list of repo, which means that here technically we're going to receive an array of element, and then we can loop through that array to show that as a flat list or a scroll view list of element, and yeah, so on and so forth, right? So yeah, the query is working. The query is working. So that was a nice catch here with the dollar part. Really good. And now the idea is to display that. Okay, so we want to jump displaying. Now we're done with React. We're done with Apollo. It's about displaying those data. So here you can do something pretty simple, like you can actually use something like a flat list. And then flat list will take a set of information like the data you want to show. So in our case, the data, it should be indeed an array. So you should give it something like repos, right? So you need to kind of make sure that that repo is well shows. I mean, you decompose the data, so and then extract the repos, so we can have a list of repos here. And then another thing you're gonna need is how to render that list of elements. So here, what you do, you get a set of, get each repo as an item. So you get it actually like this. So there is a function. So you get an item, and in my case, I'm just gonna call that the repo. And then here, I want to do I want to render that repo here by saying, for example, I will say return this, right? So I'm returning that thing here. So from the repo, what I'm going to have, I have the repo name. So I don't need any of that. So what I can say is repo dot name. Actually, it's not S here. It's over here. I need the S right here. So so what do we have? What I'm just saying that I have a flat list, which is going just to be a list of element, and I say the data source is this one, and the way to render the data source is this. It is this part, right? So so let's see how that works, because repos here should match. We need to do some work here to actually clean up this one. So let's see again what we have when we query this. We get a list of repository that looks like this. Well, we have something that looks like this, right? So let me go right below, and then look at it a bit closer, so we can see that we get a list of repository, so which is the first 10, right? So what do we get? So we get like list of, so it's an array, and then you will get something that looks like this. Okay, and so we don't need everything else. We can remove that. So we're going to have something that look like this. So like our data will look like this. So the point there is to find a way to just say, let's show that data. So but from so I need to decompose that. So I'm just gonna keep it. So I'm just showing the way I will decompose it. There are obviously tools. Ricardo shown a good tool there that can help you get that information. But here I'm showing you another way of like just quickly get the information and now go back into your code and say, how can I show it here? So we got the repo, and the repo will come as repositories, right? So we're going to have repos.repositories. So here, technically, I should see repositories, and it should show me, yeah, I need to do this the first time. So what do I have? Error is located at, I have something that doesn't work. Which error do I have? Yeah, I think my app broke again. So, okay, we're almost done, people. I just have to restart the app a little bit, and then we get our list of repositories. So what am I missing? Oh yeah. Oh wow. I missed I missed something. I missed something right here because it's still viewer dot. No, stop that. uh, yeah, I need a dot right here, right? So then I should be able to see the uh, my list of repository. So it's start. There you go. I have it here. So I have my list, and then from there I need to do dot repositories, and then there I have access to the nodes, and inside the nodes. So yeah, it's a bit tedious to write like that. So I have repositories, and then I need the nodes. It's right there. It's written before me, so I need to do that as well. So that's going to be the list of repository here. So if we go back quickly, and we almost done. So we have the things showing, and here below, there you go. We have our array. So the node has the list, and from the node, we go into loop and then just take the name, right? So that's what do we have here. We have the nodes. So I take this, and now I go here. I'm going to create a repo that says, like, I'm just going to say nodes here so I can use it as a way to make my case here. So what I need to do, I have the nodes, and the nodes start from nodes here, right? And then here I need to map it. And for each node, I just want to get node.name, right? So that's what I expect. I expect that in each repository, I'm going to have that property and that name property. So, and that indeed is going to give me a list of repos. And now I need to I should be able to show that list of repos here now. So if I go back over here, sometimes it's just stop working. My apology there. So we should be able to see the list of repo. Where is it? I console log that here. Where is it? So we have it here. So almost there, people. We're almost there. Yeah, flat list is a component in React Native here. Yeah, it's showing me 10 these things, but that's not what I console log. Oh yeah, actually my list is right here. You can see it's here. My list is here. Yeah. So we got our list. If you look at this closely here, I have the list, my list here. So what I need to do indeed is each there's going to have an array with element inside. So, so I get the repo here, which is that array, right, that we just showed. And then here I just need to do this. And I should see my list of element showing if this thing isn't stopping each time. There you go. There you go. So we have our list. It's showing. It's not beautiful. I challenge you to make it a little bit beautiful, but I can do that quickly for you because I kind of prepare something that can do that. Style. So that's the way you actually style your React Native here. So I just say style dot. I put item there. Yeah, okay. I have item. I put item and title, and then title. So I have item here, and then I have title. So yeah, both are good. So I say the style for this is item, and then the style for this is style dot. Uh, did I? Oh, title. Okay, that's short, and we done.